to enlightenment? Well, the quickest way is the way that the earth, the people of the earth, the world, does not practice. Because very few people on earth are enlightened. And the quickest way is to acknowledge the good in your life. You can't say your life is good when you're winning. That is delusion. Because everybody's happy when they're winning. It's whether you're winning or losing, or whether nothing's happening, that you have to have what I call the intelligence to say, my life is good. My teaching, fundamentally, is to impart freedom to the people who come to me. And freedom is not something that we easily understand. It is normal to pursue money and position as a source of freedom, but from the lives of the rich and famous, we see that they're not free at all. And what I call freedom, and what I endeavour to impart to the people who come to me, is freedom from the tyranny of my own emotions, my guilt, my fear, my doubt, my anger, my jealousy, my frustration, and self-judgment. So I endeavour to bring the people to an awareness of that. And it's not easy, because most people believe that their emotions are what they are. And I show the people that the emotions are not what they are, that without their emotions, they are free. Now, to get rid of that unhappiness that people have, they have to be intelligent, and they have to be willing. They have to be willing to give up, for instance, their anger. Now, you've only got to be willing to give up your anger. You won't be able to give up your anger necessarily immediately, because it's so close to the surface. Remember, my anger is myself. And I've been living. My anger is myself for years and years. Everybody has. And so when I want to give it up, because it's a part of me, it's not going to be given up that easily, since I've expressed my anger, my guilt, my fears, my doubts, as myself so readily all my life. When I want to give them up, it's not so easy. But because I have inside of me this being of intelligence, this wonderful consciousness, once I'm willing to give it up, that's half the battle. I then start to be detached from my anger more and more. In other words, every time I go to get angry, my intelligence gets there first. And eventually, the anger won't be able to get there first, because I'll be there first. And why will I be there first? Not because I'm suppressing my anger, because I must not suppress my anger. I must do this because I know and realize that anger is hurtful to my system. I get all tight when I'm angry, and afterwards I have a conversation with myself, don't I, what I should have said and what I shouldn't said. And that's not peace. That leads to worry. And anger, as I've said, destroys the lives of the people around me. The one that I love, the woman, if I'm a man, or the man that I love if I'm a woman, he's not going to be love me or can't love me while I'm angry. He might endeavour to. But it's a psychic force, and it pushes the people away from you. And they don't want to be there, because anger is violence. And it has a terrible effect on the children, who with their young psyches and minds are open to this conditioning. What's the world about? So if dad and mum can get angry like that and shout and scream at each other, then that must be what this world is about. And that's another terrible an impact on the young mind and the young psyche. And so it doesn't do any good at all, anger, except to satisfy myself. And the same with guilt. I can only be guilty about the past. And there's nothing good in the past. Nothing is good in the past. Because if I think about the past, say I'm in a nice, contented state of mind and just walking around, and suddenly someone mentions my mother, who perhaps is dead, and I've done something unkind to in the past. Immediately an emotion of guilt rises in me, from inside, just like anger. And I can't be still anymore. I start to get a feeling of remorse in me. And when someone speaks to me, I can't be natural. I'll be normal and cover up my guilt by my personality, using my personality. But inside my system, I will be unhappy. And then that will subside until someone else pushes another button, emotional button. And then I still won't be what I am, because I'll be responding to my old self. Now the question, have I suffered enough, or have you suffered enough yet, means, are you ready to give up your suffering? But if you haven't suffered enough yet, if you haven't had sufficient heartbreaks from your lover leaving you, from the person that you love most dying, if you haven't had enough suffering from that, then I'm afraid you're going to have some more. That's life. For life is not a perverse thing. It's not a lottery. It's not a chance thing. Life is run by God. The intelligence behind the entire existence of us all is a vast intelligence. And all that those circumstances, those heartbreaking circumstances, the only reason that they exist is to bring us to our senses, to give us such a shake, which often happens when somebody dies or somebody leaves you and you're really reduced. There's no talk of growth movement then, or Einstein's theory. No, that's all discarded then. The thing is, at that moment of great loss, I am vulnerable. I am open. I am open to the truth. And if only somebody would speak the truth to me, like the Master, if he was there, then it's possible that I would hear him, because I am so open to something else, to an explanation of this terrible pain that I have. But the scientists haven't thrown God and the Master out the window, and all the people thinking scientifically with their rational minds. The Master's very seldom there. And so the people must continue to suffer until they come to their senses and seize that moment of great loss to say, what is the truth of why I am suffering? And the answer is, I am attached to the past, because somebody who's died is already in the past, as far as their existence is concerned, and I'm holding on to them. And that body's going further and further down the stream of time, being destroyed by fire or buried in the ground. And I'm hanging on to it, and it's already in the past and has no meaning whatever, for only the love that I had for them is real, and that's now. To be selfish is quite self-explanatory, isn't it? If I'm self, then I'm selfish. If I'm love, I don't know any word with lovish, do you? No, there's only selfish. And if I'm selfish, I'm a person who, from time to time, gets angry, resentful, worries, gets sad, moody, doubtful, fearful, and all the rest of those selfish emotions. Now they're selfish because if I am angry, the person next to me is not necessarily angry or the one behind me or over there. It's purely exclusive, is selfishness in the moment. Whereas love, that I'm talking about, is universal. It never goes, never disappears, except when selfishness overpowers it. But the love is still there. So love is universal because it's not exclusive. It's in everybody. It is everybody. But in everybody is this selfishness which they have learned to attach themselves to, selfishness being negativity. So love, it necessarily follows, is to get rid of my selfishness. Now, of course, in our society we don't call anger selfish. We don't call self-judgment selfish. We don't call guilt selfish. But our society is so ignorant that it can't see the truth of anything because it uses its mind and emotions. Whereas if your mind is straight, which means you go straight to the intellect and not to the moving mind, because the intellect is very still. Where the mind moves in front of it, it cuts off the genius, the total genius of the intellect. And if my mind is still, through the practice of the spiritual life as I teach it, then I am able to use my intellect and I can perceive straight like selfish. It's so obvious. It's of myself and it's exclusive. It's not universal. The most pleasurable thing in my life is to know that I am one, apart from my silly projection here, which is pretty silly, to know that I am one with that great intelligence that is behind it all. To know that every second of my life I know that. And that's a wonderful thing. So I'm fortunate enough to be able to sing when I'm washing up, like many people do. But I sing with the knowledge and the peace inside that is untroubled.